Hey guys, Jim here from DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, and today we are taking a look at Ninja Savior's Return of the Warriors on the Nintendo Switch. Developed by Natsume Atare's Team Tango project, this was released for the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch in 2019. So this is a remaster of the 1994 Super Nintendo port of Taito's 1987 tri-screen arcade game. And this game kind of throws a lot of both games together. And a cool thing is I never played either of these before. So I'll be taking a look at this series for the first time, and I'll be able to tell you whether or not it holds up in 2021. When it comes to graphics, this is just a beautiful game. There is so much vibrant color and detail in the pixel art in this title. It's pretty fantastic. Like, when I first booted it up, I was shocked by the number of sprites on screen, just all the action that was going on, and even the size of a lot of these characters that just pop up, from boss fights to mini bosses to just things going on in the background and different events. It's kind of crazy just how beautiful the detail is in these sprites. There's also some cool effects that you can do. So you can turn on scan lines to a varying degree, which, I mean, fake scan lines never looks that great to me, but I guess this is okay. One thing I noticed is that the performance of the game kind of slows down, at least on the Switch version, when you have the scan lines cranked all the way up, so I don't like fake scan lines anyway, I tend to just keep them off. You can also mess with the dimensions on the screen, so you can shrink it all the way down, you can make a quasi 4:3 screen out of it, and for the most part, all the pixels stay pretty much fine. Like, unless you go really wacky with it, you're not going to get an overly stretched look or an overly squished look. Almost everything looks pretty good, and trust me, I am no screen resolution expert, so I can't tell you which is which from the other, but I like what I see, and it was optimized very well for this widescreen version. When it comes to sound, the music in this game is so good. The way they just reworked all the original tunes just comes through so clear, and it's so vibrant. And a cool thing is, you can actually unlock the original arcade soundtrack too, which is such a cool little bit of throwback nostalgia. So you can actually compare the new tunes with the classic tunes. And you get to appreciate both. It's such a cool touch, I'm so glad they did that. The sound effects in the game, they're pretty much great. The explosions are loud and just bombastic. I wish I had a really good sound system set up because I'm sure it would just come booming through. There's little bits of voice work, you know, the typical grunts from all the enemies and the player characters, which you can expect, and they're perfectly fine. The whole sound package probably won't blow you away, but what you get here is really, really good. The control. I gotta be honest with you, man, I am shocked by how deep the control is in this game. And it's gonna be really hard to talk about the control without going into a bit of gameplay too, so screw it, control and gameplay all at once, let's do this. At its core, the control is incredibly simple. You use the Y button to attack, you use the B button to jump, and you use the A button to unleash your bombs. But then it gets a little more complicated because doing directions along with attacks can give you projectile weapons, different mini dash attacks, mid-air attacks, and of course you can use your max gauge at the bottom to strengthen these attacks as well, or to pull some of these off in general. Playing around with each character and really learning how each one controls is half of the fun of the game. Each of the 5 characters controls completely different from each other. Sure, you can still do some of the same basic attacks, but doing a projectile in one way might lead to being a backwards projectile for another character, or a big throw, or some kind of big grab attack. It's just kind of crazy all the level of detail that goes into each of these characters to make sure that they just all feel different from each other. And yes, I did mention 5 characters, because this remaster adds 2 new characters. Yaksha, who has a pretty cool looking kind of grab attack with extendable arms, and Raiden, which is just this gigantic mech. It almost looks like one of the boss fight characters. And he's a slog to control, and I really don't like using him. Like, you have to put a lot of time into him to really use him effectively, but I bet when you do, he's probably awesome. but just having such a big hunking character on screen at one time, it's just goofy and fun. And the cool thing you can do is you can pause at any time and go to the in-game manual, which is ripped right from the manual that's in the physical printed versions, so you always have that at your disposal. As far as the core gameplay goes, this is a straightforward, one plain left to right hack and slash beat 'em up. And you know what? It's fun as hell. And it isn't a dumb one either. Like, I hear the arcade game's not great, but the SNES port and especially this remaster really ups the strategy that you have to have. Certain characters will be better against certain enemies, and then against certain mini-bosses, and then against certain bosses. There's always this give and take struggle with each and every character in the game. In this version of the game, you have infinite continue, so you die, you can restart from a checkpoint or from a boss fight, but if you do that, that takes away your time attack portion of the game. And yes, there's a time attack portion, so you can record how fast you get through each level. In order for these times to register, you have to get through the game basically without losing a life. So if you want to register your times, you have to get good enough to 1cc the game, which is no small task. I am not there yet. I hope to one day, but it's so rewarding and fun when you get a little bit farther every time you play that you keep coming back for more. So there's 8 stages, and at the end you have a main boss fight, you have some mini boss fights, and of course, like a lot of beat 'em ups, as you get later in the game, it might double up an old boss fight, or have an old boss as a mini boss halfway through the stage. That normal stuff. Once again, trying to survive against 2 bosses this time instead of 1 just adds to that level of complexity. It's kind of tough to show in gameplay here, but it really is just crazy how deep the game actually is for a beat 'em up. And I gotta be honest with you, it's already jumped up to being one of my favorite brawlers on the Switch to play. It's friggin' phenomenal. You get 2 modes of difficulty, normal and hard, and yes, hard is hard. The enemies hit for more, they're way more aggressive, they have slightly different attack patterns, and you take more damage, so that's always fun. Plus, you're also way more likely to lose your max gauge by being hit, so yes, you can lose your max gauge as you build it up. So you gotta be really careful about shooting them off or using your abilities. Again, you have that juggling act in the game. You get multiplayer couch co-op, which is always fun. And then you can of course check your online ranking from the home screen whenever you want. So 3 different modes of play, that's always good, which leads into the replayability. Because the game starts you off with the 3 main characters from the original Ninja Warriors and the 2 modes of play. So when you beat it through medium, you unlock Yaksha, and when you beat it on hard, you unlock Raiden, or Raiden, whatever it is. So that alone gives you reason to come back, and then you have the couch co-op multiplayer mode, which gives you more reason to come back, and then you have to play and play again to get good enough to set your times in the online rankings, so there's another reason to keep coming back. So it starts off as a pretty basic brawler, gives you so much replayability for such a surprisingly deep package. When it comes to originality, there's some things here. It's tough to score because it's a remaster of a remake, but it does give you the 2 new characters as well as the online ranking system, so it gets slight points there. When it comes to beer, I'm going to pair this with the Hella Ninja Rice Beer by the Tioga Sequoia Brewing Company. It comes in at 4.2% alcohol, it's a rice ale, which is something I've never had before, and it's a Japanese-style jasmine rice beer. So, I don't know anything about this, but it does come to us from our good friends at the Craft Beer Kings, so I think when I put my next order in, I'll be sure to check it out. Also, it's one of the few beers that wasn't straight up cringe looking from its label. Yeah, look up Ninja beers, you're gonna be shaking your head a lot. So, this one looks like it takes itself just seriously enough for me to give it a shot. Plus, it shows 3 beers on the picture here, so there's 3 original Ninja Warriors, why not? At the end of the day, what do I think of Ninja Saviors: Return of the Warriors? This shocked me. This game is so surprisingly good. I went into this going, okay, I heard this is good, it had a deal on Amazon, so I went and got it for the physical edition, and it's cool. It comes with the poster, comes with a printed out manual, comes with 2 player cards for the 2 new characters. It's a nice little deal. But I didn't realize just what was inside. It just goes beyond the scope of most normal beat 'em ups. Like, this beat 'em up revolution that we've had in this generation's been awesome, but a lot of the games are pretty simple. I guess the fact that this game was so complex when it came out, it's almost like underrated in just how deep and good of a brawler this is. Like, when you think of the Super NES, everyone talks about Final Fight, but people don't really talk about this as much, and that's a damn shame. I think this is the time to really jump into this game if you never have before. So I think on the online shops it typically goes for $20, Just recently it was finally on sale for like 10, so if you can find it on a sale, for the love of God, get it. And even if you buy it for the full 20 bucks, you won't be disappointed, trust me on this, especially if you're a fan of the beat 'em up genre. And that'll do it for today, guys. As always, leave a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you're new to the page, leave a comment below, let me know if you've played the original games, if you've played this version, what you think. Am I way off base here, or am I right in saying that this 100% holds up in this day and age? It might be more of a breath of fresh air today than it even was back in 1994. And of course, check the links to our different video game reviews, our craft beer box reviews, and we're the home of the Power Hour podcast, which is also on iTunes and Spotify. Until next time, guys, cheers.